So if you're like me, you have little ones running around in the snow, sledding, getting dirty, making jumps, and doing all kinds of fun things outside. And I love to try to capture that movement. I think that it just totally embodies childhood. And it's those things that I want to remember when they get older. I want to see them running and playing, not necessarily just staring into the camera. One of the things that has been most difficult for me inside of my photography journey is capturing movement. It seems simple, but for whatever reason it's been difficult for me. So I wanted to take an opportunity today and hopefully share a quick video that may help you capture movement with your children or furry animals or whatever it is that you're trying to get that won't quite sit still for you because they're too busy having fun. And let's face it, that's really what we want to capture, is the fun moments. That's what we want to remember. I try desperately to get my settings correct in camera as much as possible, and it really significantly reduces the amount of time that I'm going to spend in Lightroom afterwards, because let's face it, I don't want to be stuck behind the computer editing all these images because I didn't take the time when I was shooting to get it correct. So what I'll do is I'll snap a couple of test pictures, and if I need to adjust the ISO or the shutter speed to make sure that my exposure is correct, then I'll do that, because that time is worth it on the back end. One of the things to remember is that it's easier inside of your editing software to bring back details if you're slightly underexposed. If you overexpose in camera, especially around snow, it's going to be very, very difficult to bring back those details. So exposure is everything when you're outside, especially around snow, because it's reflecting all of that light back up. So there are a number of items that you need to address when you're trying to capture movement. You have your shutter speed is of utmost importance. And this needs to be in relation to the lens that you're using. And so the picture that I'm going to show you, I was using a 35mm lens. So I need to be at least 4 times that focal length to capture movement. But what I've found is that even at 4 times the focal length, my kids are moving so fast, it's just not enough. So I kind of tend to take it to the extreme, and I don't mind upping my ISO just a little bit to make sure that I get a shutter speed that's high enough. I know some people are like, ooh, grain, I don't want to see any grain. But the Nikon, from what I've noticed, anything up to like 2500 ISO, I don't really see it. I don't know if this is the way that everybody does it, but I tend to pick an aperture that I want to go for inside of the image, whatever I'm trying to shoot, and then I will make my settings work around that aperture. And so yesterday when we were out sledding, the aperture that I went for was 2.5. I know at 1.4 I'm absolutely not going to capture focus. And I tend to stay in that 2 range for aperture for whatever reason. Just kind of my go-to, I guess. I like the way that it looks. Enough the background's blurry, but then the subject's also in focus. I guess that's my style. So anyway, I set an aperture of 2.5, and then I knew I wanted my shutter high enough. So I took my shutter up to 1250, and so then I had to compensate for that with my ISO. And so I set my ISO at 640. Again, like I said, with the Nikon, I'm not even going to notice any grain, and if I do, I can go ahead and change that slider in Lightroom and reduce the noise, and no one's ever going to know the difference. But I got the aperture I wanted and the shutter speed that I wanted. Depending on, I guess, your interest in this area, you can certainly set your white balance if you would like. I had shot on auto up until maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, and quite honestly, I don't even know what I had my white balance at, but it was probably in the 4800 range given the snow. And if I didn't like that, then I can go ahead in Lightroom and adjust that. Okay, so now that we have the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO, and for those writing those down, the shutter speed was 1250, the ISO was 640, and the aperture was 2.5. White balance, just throw it on auto and you can fix it later. But now that we have those settings, I want to talk to you about how I actually captured the focus. All right, I got my little Boodle here, as you'll hear me call her on Facebook or Instagram. It's just been a nickname that has stuck since she was a little one. And so she's actually the one in the picture that I'm talking about inside of this video. So she's going to sit right here as I talk to you all about autofocus. And so there is a little switch on the front side of your camera. It's usually around the front, bottom left of the lens. And it has an AF or an M. The AF stands for autofocus, the M stands for manual. Mine almost always stays in autofocus because, quite frankly, inside of manual, I can't ever remember if I set my diopter up with or without my glasses. So even if I choose to use manual focus, it's usually not a good outcome. So, like I said, mine almost always stays on autofocus. And then, unbeknownst to me, there is a button there. I actually just read about this, so I thought it would be helpful to share because this would have been nice to know quite some time ago. But anyway, that button, if you hold it down, you have two dials on your camera. My front is for my aperture and my back is for my shutter speed. If I hold that button down, then I can roll the back button, and that's going to switch between AFS and AFC. AFS is for autofocus single. That's going to allow you to take single shots. And then AFC is for autofocus continuous. And that's going to allow your shutter speed to just go rapidly. So anyway, you can roll it. And for this particular image, I was holding the button, switched it to AFC. And then I also held the button and rolled the front dial. And that allows you to switch between single point focus and all the way up to 51 point focus. Now, I'm a bit of a control freak, so I don't like to select the 51 point focus because I want to tell the camera what I want it to look at. But I know single focus is, or the little single box, is not going to be enough for me to make sure that I nail it. So I actually just read up on this inside of the Nikon D800. They have what's called the group focus, and it selects 4 to 5 points, I can't remember which, out of the 51, and because I toggle, I can take those 4 or 5 focal points and put them wherever I want. And so for this particular image, I selected AFC, and then I also selected the group focal point, and I put it in the top left corner because I knew they were going to be at the top of the hill, and I wanted to capture them coming down. I also took this little dial that I'm going to show you here, and I changed it from S. There's also the option for CL or CH. That stands for continuous low or continuous high. I just went ahead and put it in high because I knew I was going to be taking a lot of shots as they were coming down the hill. Now, because I've set up my shutter speed and I've set up all of my focal points, I was ready to go. I was in position and I was able to just shoot them as they were coming down. And then I was able to use my editing software program, Lightroom, and select the image that best captured the moment, the excitement, and the joy. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this video was helpful. I don't know, hopefully I said a word or a phrase that can help you explore your camera and ideally help you capture moments of your kids moving and being kids doing what they do. So again, hopefully this was helpful, and maybe we'll be seeing more of these in the future. Oh, you're being recorded.
I know you're trying to record me again.